All right, let's go. Good morning, YouTube.
Morning, YouTube. Morning, YouTube.
Union Bank, your safer, smarter bank.
Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. Thank you very much for staying tuned here on Smooth 98.1. It's now 7:30 and time for today's edition of Freshly Pressed 981. Joining me this morning to analyze the news stories, I have Tunde Okufi. Good morning, Tunde. How are you?
I'm good. Morning, Naya.
Good morning. Thank you. And we have Waji Jibuno. Morning, Waji. How are you?
Morning, Aya. Good morning, Tunde. And good morning, Lagos.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, all right. So we're going to be going straight to our stories this morning, and we just ask that if you have any contributions, you can head onto our YouTube channel to watch live, and then send in your comments using the YouTube box. Also, you can send your message through our WhatsApp platform. WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. All right, let's go on to our first one. Today I'll be starting with you. Nigerian military chief confirms death of ISWAP leader al-Barnawi. The leader of the Islamic State West Africa province, ISWAP, Abu Musab al-Barnawi, is dead. Nigeria's chief of defense staff, Lucky Rabo, announced. Mr. Rabo did not disclose details of the death, but said the terrorist leader remains dead. He said in a quote, "I can authoritatively confirm to you that Abu Musab is dead. As simple as that. He's dead and remains dead." Your take on this, Tunde?
Lucky. Okay, so they've announced this. This happening without any detail, and we are expected to accept it on the authority of who is, disseminating or sharing the information purely. So I don't know whether it is because now that can be interpreted to mean can be interpreted in any number of ways.
Yeah.
Is it because they themselves are lacking in detail? Has he died as a function of military action and or of natural causes, and then they've learnt of this maybe through intelligence means? If it was due to military action, are they in possession of the body, for instance? Because look, we're not the only ones fighting terrorism, right? When Osama was located and executed, there were very down to the minute details of what happened, what was done. Like all the details were eventually ultimately shared in a matter of days, to be honest. And generally, when any terrorist leader is taking out, details are provided. So it's a bit. It can only allude to the fact that perhaps we don't have actual details, and this didn't come about due to military action, because he didn't allude to any military action either. He just he's making statements as though I would again we're left to conjecture here because there's very little detail.
Yeah.
So I would assume that this is something that they've learned from intelligence reports, and we all know that intelligence reports sometimes can turn out not to be accurate. So let's hope it's not one of those cases where we recall how many times Shekau himself was proclaimed to be dead.
Yeah.
For him to only come out to do a video. So let's see if a rebuttal comes from this claim.
Okay.
So yeah, he goes on. He talks quite extensively and rather boldly. And it's good to hear this. It's just been a long time that we have talking about ISWAP having taken over from Boko Haram, which again is not accurate. So I don't know whether it's reporting or his inaccuracies. If it's his inaccuracies, it's worrying and probably impinges on the core of what he's telling us about the man being dead. Because it didn't take over from Boko, it didn't overthrow or seize power from Boko Haram. It broke out of Boko Haram as a separate faction, allied with the Islamic State, which is why it's Islamic State of West Africa. The Boko Haram still functions. The other interesting thing is that he mentioned that since 2009, we've lost over 40,000 troops, in this, which is mind-boggling.
It is.
It's mind-boggling. For comparison, the United States lost 2,401 soldiers in Afghanistan. And 4,431 in all the years in Iraq. This is over a decade of active engagement, right? So maybe together under 6,000 thereabouts troops compared to 40,000 lost here.
More than 40,000.
More than 40,000. So it gives an indication of the scale of what's not just what we're dealing with, but how we're dealing with it, or how under-equipped and maybe ill-prepared, we are to deal with it.
All right. Thank you very much, Tunde, for your analysis. Really important. I guess the reason why we would be having conversations around, oh, is it not or is it, is a lack of trust, as we've talked about a number of times in the military, bearing in mind what's happened in the past, where we'd get one statement, like you mentioned, and then there would be a rebuttal shortly afterwards, or we see that it didn't actually quite happen. All right, let's go on to our next story, Waji. Buhari once took part in protests, shouldn't disrupt NSAS, says human rights lawyer and interim chairman, Alliance on Surviving COVID-19 and Beyond, Mr. Femi Falana, SAN. He's called on the president, Muhammadu Buhari, to abide by his oath of office by calling on the police not to disrupt upcoming NSAS protests. Now, he took us back, he cast our minds back to the fact that the president himself had taken part in public rallies against fuel hike, notably in January 2012. That's the, I believe, Occupy Nigeria protests, and protests against insecurity in November 2014. He says that the Nigeria police force lacks power to ban public protests in Nigeria. Now, Waji, earlier this week on the show, we talked about this, the NSAS protests. I think Mr. C was on then, and it was just this advice by a number of people saying that they believe that the young people shouldn't risk their lives to go out there. I mean, you see heavy police presence at the toll gate, you think something's amiss. I saw it again this morning. So the debate is, should they or should they not? Some people are basing this on the principle of it's their rights, they should go out and protest, peaceful protest. And others are saying, you know what, it's not worth it. You understand the government of the day, do what is sensible. I'd like to get your take on this.
Okay, there are several layers to this. And I think at the core layer of it is whether we are a democracy or not. And I think that's the fundamental basis of it, because that now begins to speak to all the other aspects that you mentioned. And if we are a democracy, which is clearly stated that the fundamental rights of the Nigerian people to freedom of expression and freedom of assembly guaranteed by sections 38 and 40 of the Nigerian Constitution, in addition to Articles 9 and 10 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights Act. And these are things we have publicly declared to the United Nations, and these are things we have publicly signed. So to answer that question, if we are a democracy in line with these particular statutes, then we need to do things that allow people to protest freely. That's layer number one. Layer number two is that the incumbent and also people in his administration have taken advantage of these rights by themselves participating and exercising their fundamental rights as Nigerian citizens under the Nigerian Constitution, as was done in 2012 and 2014, to carry out protest against the ruling government with regards to particular things that they were not happy about. They did this as part of their campaign and also as responsible Nigerian citizens. That's number two. Number three is now getting to the point of October 20th, which is now going to be on Wednesday next week. As a revolutionary, I will always advocate for people to protest. I will always advocate for people to speak their minds.
Yeah.
I will always advocate for people to do what is necessary. But as an individual much further down in my life, who also has children, who has nieces and nephews who happen to be in this age range, under no circumstances will I advise them to go protest knowing what happened a year ago. So it's a conflating answer, because if I was in my mid-20s, early 20s, early 30s, well, maybe mid-20s, not early 30s, but mid-20s, there's no way in hell you're going to tell me not to protest. It's just that simple. Because I protested at that age. I caused disruption at that age. And I know what is burning and the fire and the energy and the tenacity that comes with the vigor and the exuberance of youth. And there's nothing much you can do to quench that. I understand that fundamentally.
Yeah.
But coming from the point I'm coming from now, where I am in my life, and also knowing what we saw last year, all I can say is please just stay off the streets, because you cannot achieve the things you're trying to accomplish within the context of the environment that you are in unless you are prepared to do that which the people you are protesting against are ready to do, or worse. And if you're going to go down that road, then that is where real revolutionary war now takes place. Yeah. So, for me, it's a multifaceted approach to respond to this. That the best thing the Nigerian government can do is nothing. Let me just be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
As long as they can make sure that there's minimal damage or disruption and everything else, or they give advice that, okay, fine, protest within this particular quarantine area, let's not disrupt traffic, or we can divert traffic, or you can actually work with the protesters as a show of unity or whatever the case may be to actually allow them the freedom of expression. And that way you actually garner a lot of support.
Yes.
If I was advising the government, that's what I would advise them to
Yeah.
do, but we know they're not going to do that. So in the absence of that, the only thing you can do is just let people come out, make the noise they want to make, and then just let them be.
Yeah.
But when you come out with pre-utterances of what they can and cannot do, you only fuel the anger
Absolutely.
and you make it worse.
Mhm.
So honestly, I don't know why they're coming out with these statements. I mean, we've known October 20th is around the corner.
Yeah.
We've known for several months,
Even
weeks.
from last year.
And people are still reeling. I mean, I remember every time, I have to drive by the ShopRite at Circle Mall every day on my way home or coming out. And it's a constant reminder because it's still closed. And it's a constant reminder of October 20th. This place was shut down as a result of NSARS.
Yeah.
So imagine I had a business there, or I was emotionally attached. I am emotionally attached because it's my neighborhood, mall.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the things tying me down. These are things that fuel you to want to act.
Yeah.
So it's and I think we have to look at the melting pot of all these different things. It's a very serious issue. We're literally 5 days away from this thing,
Yeah.
and I don't know what people are protesting, planning in terms of protest, but as a concerned individual, as a concerned Nigerian, knowing what happened, I would just ask that without trying to tell people not to exercise their fundamental rights, but just knowing what we know, I would please just like to ask that everybody just stay away and let's not. I don't think any life is worth being lost because of this.
Do you feel the frustration of you being robbed of your rights, Waji? Speaking as someone whom, as you've mentioned, would have protested when you were younger. Imagine the pent-up frustration of young people who want to take an action, and one of the best ways to get a rebellious, a teenager not to rebel is to say you cannot, you must
Exactly.
not. So I want to understand if you feel the frustration of the people as wanting to take action, and today you can come in, I want to take action, but not being able to, or being told not to. And like you said, I wish they would invite you to come and advise them, because you want to wonder who's advising the government, even in the way you manage your communication.
You're absolutely
and your
right.
with the people.
And the thing is, that's what I'm saying. It's an impossible conversation. I will not, if I had someone in their 20s, I'm not going to say anything to them. All I'll do is just pray and hope that they come back. Because me at that age, are you serious?
Yeah, everything is down to tact.
That's
To be
it.
honest.
Yeah.
It's down to tact. And everything doesn't have to be some hugely advanced science. And
No.
a lot of the people in authority now, in government now, have dealt with. They have children, right?
Yeah.
So they've dealt with children. They've raised kids.
Yeah.
And they've raised teenagers or young adults, right? And they know the things that have worked and haven't worked in trying to, shall I say, maintain the order and the peace within their own homes. Bring some of that knowledge into
Apply wisdom.
public. So bottom line,
Apply wisdom.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Apply wisdom. Give people the even if it is just the impression
That's it.
of freedom.
Optics, man.
You would avoid matters like this. Let them get their voice out, and
I like the
move
suggestion
things
of
forward.
even arranging it, making
Listen.
it seem as if you're walking. I mean, that's what Sanwo-Olu did
No,
last year.
there's so many ways around this. I remember, people like Gaddafi, when he was trying to transition, he would join protests.
Yeah.
It was all optics.
Yeah, all of
But
it.
think about it. It's like you're protesting against me. Fine, let's go. Let's all protest together. And at that point, everybody just kind of calms down.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So
It just shows you're on the side of the people.
it's not even, no, he's not on the side of the people, but it's a function of I cannot stop you. And I don't want anything to go further. So let's just have a way to, like Tunde said, manage it.
Yeah.
What Gaddafi was doing, and this is in the latter part of his dictatorship, was applying wisdom because he had an end goal. His end goal was to transition Libya into a democratic society. And these are the ways you do that. So this whole, they cannot do this. I mean, you're more or less tempting them.
Yeah.
You're more or less tempting them. Just very quickly, there's a situation that happened in my alma mater this past week, Howard University in Washington, D.C., where protests started. The students were complaining about housing and things of that nature. Very quiet protest, maybe 10 or 15 students. And people felt that it wasn't a serious thing and just let it dissipate. Then some university administrators came out and said, if you, the students, don't go back to your dormitories or classes, we're going to expel you. Boom.
Everybody.
Now hundreds of students are out there. They shut down campus. And now people are asking, why did you need to say that?
Yeah.
Why put fuel on fire unnecessarily? So you're now coming out telling people they cannot. What if people weren't planning to protest?
Yeah.
What if people
Exactly.
weren't planning to do anything?
Actually.
Now you're telling them, do you know what? To hell with it.
Yeah, they've positioned police at the toll gates.
Why?
These
Yeah,
things are like
since from
tempting
the
it.
beginning of the
Yeah.
week, yeah.
No need.
It just doesn't make sense.
All right, thank you very much. Taya from Ajah says even the USA were able to distinguish between a protest and rioters from the invasion of Capitol Hill, but the Nigerian police wants to use a blanket approach to deny everything because they can't guarantee safety. Zeal says, like corporate MC, that's Waji, at the risk of double speak, let them protest, albeit peacefully. You can't deny the future of Nigeria their right. Carpe diem, let's seize the moment. Fabian from Ekpe says, why can't our government and security be more positive and proactive regarding the anniversary of the NSAS protest, like you both said, by inviting the youth, putting things in place to be more sensitive rather than making a show of might and negative resistance? Brain always wins over brawn.
Exactly. Create an event around it.
And then
Say we're
And
commemorating this.
take control of it. And take control of it. I mean, if you had started saying, okay, October 20th is coming up, we want to get ahead of the story, and we're going to take control of it. If your goal, and this is from a strategic PR point of view, if your goal is to get people off the street, then own the event.
Absolutely.
Say, you know what, we're going to declare that day a public holiday, not a public holiday or something.
Yeah, and just commemorate the fact that young people came out
Yes.
to
that way
change.
that you will see zero protest.
Yes, and you'd win the people. All right,
But,
thank you. So I think maybe, like you said, the end goal, are they looking to win the hearts of the people or just do what they want to?
I don't.
All right, let's go on to our next story, Tunde. CDS, that's the Chief of Defense Staff, again, is back again. General Lucky Rabo has alleged allegations of discriminatory military engagement against the people of the Southeast. The submission came following rising allegation of harsh treatment of the people of the Southeast by security operatives deployed to the area to maintain peace. This is an interesting one.
Tunde, your boy's been busy, huh?
Very busy. You haven't heard from him in a while.
Very, very.
Now he's dominating our headlines.
Very, much to talk to. Okay. Look, we can't deny the fact that the Southeast is not heating up; it's heated up.
Yes.
And it stayed hot for quite a while.
The whole year, man.
It stayed hot for quite a while. And similar to some of the things we were saying earlier, where you have a bad situation, optics are always important, especially in today's age where information disseminates at the speed of thought, literally. The game is different.
Yeah.
And the military, in terms of its image management, is still operating at perhaps maybe World War II level.
Wow, I was going to say 1980s. You're taking it back, huh?
Yeah, that far back. Like, you need to send a cable before you know what really happened.
Telegram,
in that case.
1940.
It's different now, right? In the past, the harassment of the Nollywood actor that, from his perspective, was wearing the rising sun, and the sun shouldn't, represent anything that is treasonable or whatever it is, was in his perspective anyway, is he was inspired to be wearing the Biafran flag, regardless of whatever happened. The truth is, in the past, there was a time in history where that would have happened, nobody heard. It wouldn't have gone beyond the small community. But now it became not just national news, potentially something that was shared internationally, right? So it's difficult for of course, he can come out and say I guess, reading off, I don't know him personally, but reading off his statements, especially on the ISWAP leader's death, he is clearly an individual that, wants you to take him at his word. He makes proclamations. Yeah. So he has proclaimed that there's no discrimination. Now, however, that may be at variance with, some of the realities that people see, some of the videos that go around, some of the allegations, no doubt. It's a difficult situation in the Southeast. He is right that, look, while Nigerians do have a right to, and I'm quoting him here, have a right to pass their views to government, they must do so without the use of violence. We agree 100%. It should never be the case. It's a very unfortunate situation that's going on in the Southeast. But the military can help by not, pouring gasoline on already hot situation and making things worse. So it is really difficult to say that there is no discrimination, especially when you compare that, at least from the outside looking in
Yeah.
anyway, compare that to the situation in the northeast,
Yeah. With
where there's
amnesties,
conversation of amnesty,
yeah.
there's they're rehabilitating
Yeah.
guys, even
There's a
when
lot of
even the
engagement.
north, there's a
Yes.
lot of engagement, even when in the north particularly there isn't even cohesion around how that should go. There are northern politicians that are saying that there should be no such thing. I can't remember which one of them. I think in the house was saying that there should be no such thing as amnesty for militants in the northeast.
I think it was Matawale that said.
Yes, I can't recall, but I remember that. Look, that there should be no such thing. But meanwhile, you have people like Gumi who are leading
Yeah.
those engagements. So you see, it's kind of difficult. It's difficult for some people to reconcile, the zero tolerance in one part, and engagement in others.
All right. Thank you very much, Tunde. Moving on, ASU wants law prohibiting government officials' children schooling abroad. Vanguard. This is a statement that's come up again and again from different quarters. They actually commended the Minister of Labour and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, for having putting his children in public schools in Nigeria, university level. And I think at least one area where we can give him commendation for, we ought to mention that. But I'd like to get your thoughts on this. And I know we've had this debate before here. We even had a proper Wednesday chat on this, where people called in and gave their opinion.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I don't know if it should be a law,
Yeah.
but I do believe that in order for you to promote the education sector within your country, the best way to do that is to send your children to schools within Nigeria. And I think it just speaks to how seriously you take it. Why is that? Because when you don't have a skin in the game, you don't commit the resources to that skin in the game. And that's just that simple. So people that sit on the education committee, people that work within the ministry, people that now have the responsibility of allocating resources towards education,
Yeah.
if their children are not directly benefiting from it, or people that are close to them, there's no emotional investment. And education is an emotional investment. So I don't know if there should be a law. I think for me, the larger issue, Aya, is can we just take it seriously? So your kids shouldn't. What if you don't have children?
Yeah.
And you just happen to be on that committee? So it shouldn't be about your kids going to that school, going to school within Nigeria for you to take it seriously. It's something that you have to see as a grand importance to your nation building agenda. And if you see that as a grand importance to your nation building agenda, then you make sure that the relevant resources, the necessary budgetary allocations are made. So that's the real issue. I understand where ASU are coming from, because they're looking at it from a carrot and stick perspective, that if you wield it, it will force people to now take these things seriously. I get. But I don't know if that necessarily addresses the issue. I think the main issue is, can we just take education a lot more seriously in Nigeria?
Thank you. Kule from Ifako says, good morning. I'm so impressed with the two brothers in the studio for their thoughts on the NSAS anniversary. The current political leaders are making us miss the PDP days in government. They never denied us a protest. Shame on this APC and their fake progressive slogan.
Woohoo!
All right. Tunde, using school as military base is worsening attacks. The Minister of Education, Adamu on Thursday, talking about education, said the use of schools for shelter by security agencies had made schools vulnerable to attacks by non-state actors. I think the first question that came to my mind in terms of reading this article, why would you want to use a school as a military base? I don't understand that. Already we're trying to safeguard schools, and then you're making it even more attractive, like, here, come and get us here. I don't understand. Please take us.
Yeah, you know what? When I say we need to upgrade our thinking and strategy as well when it comes to defense and the military, but it also what it actually also highlights or underpins is a stark lack of infrastructure. So in many places, many areas, very often the structures that you find in some communities, let's keep forgetting that we are Nigeria is in Africa, and Africa is
TIA, man, this is Africa.
this is Africa, so you know what I mean,
TIA.
right? And there's a dearth of infrastructure. So you go to many places, and the only type of infrastructure or structures you meet, other than individual homes and huts and stuff, are schools,
Yes.
and places of worship.
And
Right.
hospitals.
And
Some places.
hospitals, even in many places, no hospitals, right? Yeah. But you definitely very often, because of some of the things that had been done round about independence, right? You'd find at least a school, and you'd find a place of worship. So schools then therefore become, prime places for when you need to set up stuff, right? Does it make sense for you to do so if you say you're trying to protect kids? No, it doesn't make any, it doesn't make any practical sense. I mean, you think of the arguments in certain parts of the world that are dealing with gun violence, and then the debate around whether teachers and or guards on campus should be allowed to carry arms. There is that debate is still going on, but I mean, clearly, this is not even a situation like this. Is like the military. Now, if the military are a target, which they are, remembering that over 40,000 of them we've lost over 40,000 of them since since 2009.
Right, yeah.
Clearly, you do not then want to put such a target mixed in with some of our most vulnerable, which are the schools. So no, it doesn't make sense. It shouldn't, but to me, it highlights the lack of infrastructure. And when they want to set up camp,
Yeah.
it's easy for them to go to school. I don't know if you guys remember, in leading up to 2015 elections, when they put out a video when JJ was doubling up on action against terrorists, and they brought in, although they wouldn't agree to this public, they brought in mercenaries. There's a video that was shot with Nigerians. Where were they camping? It's a school.
School, yeah.
School. The school was their base camp.
Do you think, like what Dele said, just very quickly, that he thinks that in his opinion, it means the military is going to be able to better protect the school, so he'd rather see it that way?
They're not there as security for the school.
Exactly.
They're using it as an operational
That's
base,
it,
essentially. And it's because they don't have, and we don't have, those...
All right. Thank you. Dele says Jakonde established public primary school and he made sure all his children attended the school. I was in class with one of them. Thank you. All right. Wajid, return of Benin bronzes begins next year as Nigeria, Germany sign MOU. Nigeria has finally reached an agreement with German government on the return of Benin bronzes. MOU on museum cooperation was signed on Wednesday between both countries. Good news?
This is fantastic news,
Yeah.
especially when you think about how long that this campaign has been going on. This campaign started in 1977 to return the artifacts that were looted and stolen by the British Imperial Forces in 1897 from the Benin region when they sacked it during a punitive expedition. So I think it's an important thing. I have been advocating for this my entire life, primarily because of my own family background, given that we are into museum and gallery arts and the promotion of progressive and contemporary Nigerian and African arts. So this is a very important point. And credit to the individuals who have brokered this deal. The one that I want to see is the British Museum return those artifacts, because that's
How
where,
soon
because
do you
that's
think
when
this will
I don't.
happen?
Well, it has to happen,
Yeah.
and they just need to accept that they actually stole that. They're a bunch of thieves. I need to stop meandering around the point and just return what was ours. End of story.
End of story.
I'll
Thank
encourage
you.
everyone to listen to Chimamanda's talk at the
Exactly.
initial
I don't.
moment.
Yeah.
You cannot. Part of the argument can't be that we can't give you back because you can't look after it. No.
No,
it's
you
not
stole
your
it.
business to
If
stole it, man.
exactly.
You didn't ask.
If we
It's
choose
ridiculous.
to throw it in the River Niger,
That's-
that is
that's
our
our
business. Return what you stole, thief.
God. All right, I need to move on. Sunday, COVID-19 vaccine, US donates over 3.5 million doses to Nigeria. This is just an announcement of the arrival of additional 3.5 million doses of Pfizer vaccine.
Yeah, we're grateful. We're a handout kind of nation, so our hands are out and we're grateful to receive the Pfizer vaccine. I don't take it as an insult. We're not alone in this. I mean, most of the
rather
it's
not
just a
be
reminder.
there.
It's just a reminder of
Yeah.
our station, and you should be aware and content of your station in life. And your place in life.
No, we're not
So,
content with this particular
we
station.
seem to be. Since 1960, we haven't figured ourselves out. So, yeah, we must be content. We put our hands out. They've sent us 7.5 million doses. We're grateful.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows would say that the Pfizer vaccine gets the bad rep. Is this? I mean, even this guy mentioned it as being the third best choice.
No, Johnson, the Johnson one.
What's it, John? This is
Johnson one, yeah.
yeah.
Johnson and
Okay.
Johnson one. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, we're grateful. It's good. It's good. We need to get our population vaccinated. It's interesting that the US are struggling to get people out there to vaccination.
Oh, yeah.
Centers are actually taking it quite seriously to support much of the world. So
Yeah.
good on the US.
All right.
And good on us.
Thank you very much, Cindy. A final one, just to mention, Lagos extends period of traffic diversion on Apapa Oshodi Expressway from Punch, just to help us in our navigation and planning of our journey. So the Lagos State government has extended the period of traffic diversion on the Apapa Oshodi Expressway till 30th of October. It was scheduled for completion on the 3rd of October, but now it's now moved to the 30th.
And expect to be extended by another 6 months. And we've been having this conversation for years. So just expect more extensions.
All right, I shouldn't be laughing at all these things, but sometimes it's so hilarious. I'm sorry. All right, okay, so I'll end on this note since it's a Friday. I think this lady hasn't put her name there, but she's asking if Waji is single. I think
Several years late. Yeah.
I think I'll just on behalf of the gentlemen
Over a
today, they're
decade
both occupied. So I'm so sorry to all the ladies out there, and I do think his wife is listening. So I'll see this as a compliment.
She is.
to Waji.
Thank you,
Yeah.
lady. I'm going to have an interesting conversation when I get home.
I hope this lady hasn't jeopardized you coming on on Freshly Pressed. Thank you so much to the gentlemen. Thank you Tunde Okufi at Big Coops on social media and Waji at the Corporate MC. That's the Corporate to the K on social media. And thanks to all our listeners. Thank you for your comments and thank you for even the ones that sent me, you won't read my message. The truth will still be out. To you too, thank you. Have a wonderful morning. The next few minutes we'll be having a Feel Good Friday edition of Lagos Talks 981. Following that, we have the Locker Room 981 Sports with Tega Onojaife. Stay tuned here on Smooth 98.1.
Union Bank.
It's taking you out
Thank
now.
you.
Get me in trouble. Next is going to be like, who is she? Who is she?
Oh, you got fans now, yeah?
Thank you guys so much for such a good conversation.
Oh, man.
Thank